My father was on his way back home after a quick stop at the gas station to pick up some coffee for Mom. He was taking his first initial ride on his new motorcycle with the biggest smile on earth. Then, 10 seconds later, his life was taken in an instant without even seeing it. He was flung off his bike and then hit. The accident happened at 9:30 in the morning. He had taken me to work earlier that morning at 8:30. That was the last time I would say I love you and I'll see you later and have fun. That moment makes me tear up every time I think of it. I was not told till 11 o'clock later that day. My brother pulled up to me with his girlfriend in the car while I was working as a cart pusher at Price Chopper. He told me the news, drowning in tears himself. I had never traveled to Dartmouth faster in my life. My brother pushed the pedal through the floor, trying to get there in time. I'd got there, and there was my mother, standing there in the opening. She saw Chris and I, and then she collapsed. At that moment, the thought crossed my mind. I knew he was gone, but I had to be strong about it and hold up the rest of the family. After getting her up and calming her down for a minute, she was able to tell us bits and parts of what had just taken my father's last breath. I was the youngest of all three children. I had his looks, his build, his love, and his anger. My father shaped me into who I am today. He was indeed gone when I arrived to his room. As I stumbled over to him, I picked up and held his hand. While shaking and trembling from what I was seeing, I stayed until his hand turned from warm to cold. I said my last goodbyes to my dad at the age of 16. In this moment, I realized the weight of the responsibility that was now on myself, the man of the house. My brother had already moved out, so it was just me and my mom. I would tell anyone who has not had this unfortunate thing happen to them that it is still the most painfulest thing I've ever encountered in my life. I had never considered before how fast a life could be taken. My father was only 45 with a family that needed him. It was too soon. With his death, I had to grow up, and fast. From that day on, things had not been the same, nor will they ever be. But one thing is for sure, I'm going to make him proud, and I know that. My father was the leaning block, not only for his two children and his wife at home, but for the whole family. Everyone talked to him about anything and everything. Working, laughing, smiling, and a cold beer on Friday nights is what he worked for. He worked hard to keep a roof over our heads and food in our stomachs. He was the hardest working man I know. No one could keep up with him. My father was faster, stronger, smarter than anyone I ever knew. Everything he did was something I watched and modeled myself after. I learned a tremendous amount of odd and end things from following my dad around. I learned how to drive at a young age, play football, fix things on cars, build a skate deck, tell jokes, and so on. But in the process, I learned to do things on my own, be independent, follow in his footsteps. Just by watching him made me think of how I could do things, but in a different way, not the same as other students or other people. And to this day, I still recite grace over my dinner, as my father would do every night of his life, because we have had nights where we didn't have food at times. My father lives on in me more than 100%, and I'm proud of it. There are some things that have helped me through this tough time in my life. These people and actions have impacted me enough to make me want to do something for myself and push me out of my shell. These were and still are my motivations to move on and keep rolling with life. My life could not be better than it is right now. I'm doing great as a senior in high school. I have a great girlfriend to support me, and I have things to show off and be proud of. It has almost been 2 years since my father's passing, and I personally feel stronger and more confident about where and what I'm doing in life. But immediately after my father's death, it was hell. Life went downhill fast for me after my father's death. Some of the troubles I ran into after my Dad's passing included the return of my chronic depression, not showing up for school, having bad grades, and not respecting others. I got into heavy drug use and was arrested twice. My mother and I don't speak now because of the lack of respect I showed her intolerance of lies, and our increasingly frequent arguments. I went everywhere, couch surfing, stayed here, there, and everywhere. It took me a while to find myself again, but no matter how hard I tried, I kept pushing. I met my girlfriend Carly on New Year's Eve 2013. Since then, I had not been happier. This girl came out of nowhere and turned my life around. We talk about everything and we have a bond like nothing I would have ever imagined having with anyone else. She took my mind off from escaping the pain through drugs and helped me get back on track. She inspired me to succeed like my father would have wanted for me. And when I'm not with Carly, I'm skateboarding. Skateboarding has always brought a smile to my face. Ever since I was a little kid, my father would always watch the progress I made and always say, keep trying, do it harder, faster, practice, practice, practice. And when I was 10, he brought me to my first amateur contest. I placed second in it. I was so amped. That is why when I jump on my board and go for a small sesh, I do try to improve and use the techniques my dad pushed me to attempt when I was so young. And when I'm not skateboarding, I'm usually drawing. My father always pushed me to draw because I have been told by many people and himself that I'm a great artist and I should pursue a career. Everyone helps me, pushes me towards that career goal every day. And of course there are ups too, you know. There's always that thought that runs through my mind though. What if he was still here? What if we actually went on vacation like we were supposed to later that day? And would he be proud of me? As I was walking back to my car on the way out of the hospital, my grandmother looked up at the dark and bleak looking sky. I looked up at the sky and pointed out something to the whole family. Everyone was astonished. Through the rough skies, a beam of light was shining down on my dad's room that everybody just left. Everyone was shocked and happy because we all know he had made it to where he was meant to be, in heaven. I miss you and love you, Dad.